As you know, this is the first of forums that we hope will become an annual event. So it is the inaugural Nancy Riche Front Door Forum. When she comes up to talk about what the front door means. Some of you have heard the story that Nancy has told when she was alive, and some of us have repeated it over and over, but many here tonight won't know it, so Mary will tell us about that. I want to thank the Women's Caucus of the party, and the Labour movement is an essential part of the party and of the Women's Caucus, because the Women's Caucus were the ones who looked at how can we remember Nancy? How can we make sure that her spirit goes on living? What can we do? And tonight is the result of that thinking that the Women's Caucus put together. And they were the ones who came to the executive and said they wanted to do this and wanted to make it a regular event. And they have the full, of course, full support of the provincial executive for this forum. So wonderful. Nancy touched many of our lives. For some of you, she's a legend. You never met her. For many of us, she was our colleague. She was our sister. Nancy and I first became connected and working together back in the 1980s. There are some in the room who weren't even thought about in 1980. And I was always just totally led by and touched by the commitment of this woman. I've told this story before, some of you have heard it, but I want to tell it again. In the 1980s, we had a number of horrific strikes that went on. We had Brian Peckford as the premier, and thanks to Brian Peckford, we had a real coming together of Labour, the community, the women's movement, church social justice groups, to band together into the Coalition for Equality. One of the strikes that happened during that time was a strike at Newfoundland, the telephone. And it was over Christmas. And I remember Christmas Eve, I was at home, and I lived in a community at that time. We were getting ready to just sort of have a Christmas Eve get-together. And I thought, I must call Nancy and see if there's anything that the strikers need right now. So I called her. And she said, no, everything's okay. It took her a while to answer the phone. And she said, sorry to keep you waiting, you're just downstairs. I said, what are you doing? She said, oh, just bagging up some fruit. And she was down in her basement on Christmas Eve, bagging up fruit for the strikers, all by herself. And said, no, it's okay, I'm grand, girl, I'm grand, you go on now, you have your party, I'm fine. That was Nancy. And many people didn't see that Nancy Riche. Those of us who worked with her did. She just wasn't the fighter on the picket line. She just wasn't the leader on the national, international level. On a one-on-one, she was a person who cared about people, cared about the sisters and the brothers, and cared about the whole community. And when you hear the story of the front door tonight, you'll get an idea of where that came from. So I want to thank the Women's Caucus. We have a guest here tonight who probably doesn't want to be introduced, but I'm going to do it. One of Nancy's longest friends in the movement, Linda Gallant, came all the way from New Brunswick to be here tonight. Sister Gallant, please stand and show yourself. Stand up tonight. It's so wonderful, Linda, to see you here. And if Nancy can look at us, I'm not sure that's a true statement that one can do that, but if she can, if I die and find out that's a possibility, I'm going to be happy if I find that out. I don't know if I die. But if Nancy found out that she knows we're here tonight, then she's smiling at us and she's saying, well, in the name of God, you're doing what you're doing, right? But she wants us to have a party. She would be so happy to have been here for Colleen Power. She's going to be so happy to be here with her sisters who are here in front of us, Barb and Nikki and Lana. And she's so happy that we're all here. After we have this wonderful night of talking together, then we're just going to have some relaxation and fun together. So all I want to say is welcome. It's going to be a wonderful evening. Have a wonderful time. And now Sister Mary Shortall is going to come forward and speak and welcome you.